As you prepare for and then enter retirement, there are a lot of decisions, especially every single year for the first decade or so of your retired life, that have massive implications on your financial future, on the amount of income you are ultimately going to be able to generate, on the amount of taxes you'll ultimately have to or not pay, on your ultimate legacy. Those early decisions can make hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference in those areas. It's no small matter. And one of the first in-your-face decisions you'll have to make around your retirement years is whether to take Social Security early or delay. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the most spry 18,000 financial minds on YouTube. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Steven Spicer, and it's my goal to help you not get killed in taxes and to overcome these significant risks to which mainstream advice leaves you exposed. In this video in particular, we're talking about Social Security. The decisions you make regarding Social Security can have a massive impact on the total taxes you pay over your life, and thus on the overarching amount of your hard-earned money that you are going to get to use to help you live your best possible life, as well as on your ability to get the absolute most enjoyment, the least stress out of these important years. So the big question we're tackling today, should you take Social Security early? 62, 63, 64? Full retirement age, or FRA, for most of you trying to make this decision today, is 67. As you probably know, you get penalized for starting that income early. If you take it the moment you can at age 62, your benefit will be 30% less than you are entitled at your FRA. And that will be locked in for the rest of your life. Yeah, this is an important, lifelong, life-impacting decision. But wait, there's more. Every year you delay after your FRA, up until age 70, your payment amount goes up by 8%. Now you should know that all of these numbers, for somebody who starts early at 62 compared to someone who delays until 70, the expected total payout by the Social Security Administration, the SSA, is the same. That's how they came up with these numbers. It's not about rewarding you if you delay or punishing you if you take it early. It's more like they have a pool of money that has your name on it, that has already been turned into a straight life annuity for you, in the sense that when you die, if there is anything left over in that pool, you get none of it. Who's getting that money that was left in your pool? Well, the people who end up living longer than average, because they've been promised payments until they die too, whether that's at 90 or 190, even though their pool has already been exhausted. Does that make sense? They're using insurance company logic and actuarial tables. Of course, they're not being as responsible as an insurance company has to be, since they often just rely on taxes and Congress to figure something out to make those payments rather than actual reserves, but that's a rant for another video. I've heard people complain and say that average life expectancy is around 74. So why would I delay all the way to 70 only to get 4 years of benefit when I could have received way more total had I claimed early? Well, fun fact, 74 is the life expectancy for a newborn male. The average life expectancy for a 62-year-old male is different. It's another 19.03 years. That gets you to age 81, which just so happens to be right around where the break-even point is for claiming your Social Security early. For a 62-year-old female, there's another 22.04 years, by the way. But yeah, the break-even point when you would have received just as much money from claiming at 62 as you would from the larger payouts after delaying until 70 is around 81 or 82. If you live longer than that point, you'll end up receiving more over your lifetime as a result of delaying. If you die before then, you would have received more had you claimed early. Does that make sense? There's no trickery here. There's also no one-size-fits-all answer here either. That being said, for most of my clients, it often makes sense for them to delay. I want to provide you with some considerations to help you make an informed decision for yourself. So what are the reasons people use to claim Social Security early? Number one, they might say, what if I die early and don't get any or very many of the payments I'm due? Number 2, they may say, I'm not going to be able to enjoy the larger check later in life anyway. I'm active now, so I should take it now. Have you ever heard retirement broken down into your go-go years, your slow-go years, and your no-go years? Yeah, well, that's the concern being expressed here. Isn't a smaller check during my go-go years more valuable to me than a larger check during my slow or no-go years? Number 3, they might say, what if Social Security goes bankrupt or requires reduced payments later? After all, the SSA's own report shows their funds being depleted in 2034, which, by the way, is a year earlier than the last time they ran the projections. That's not good. After that, unless something is done, payments would need to drop to 74 to 80% of what was promised. And number 4, they may say, what if I need the money today? What if I cannot continue working and I can't live without it? Those are great reasons. And as I said, everyone will be a little bit different here as far as what's going to make the most sense for you. But let me go through each of those and provide the counter arguments, if you will, just the other side of it, so you can make an informed decision for your own situation. And then at the end, I'll share with you probably the best reason I've seen, even advised, for someone to claim their Social Security early. All right, let's start with number 1. What if I die early and don't get any or very many of the payments I'm due? On the surface, this makes sense, and I understand the concern, but a lot of retirement planning is hedging, is making sure you are prepared no matter what ends up happening. That's kind of how I approach everything as a financial advisor. There are so many variables involved as we try to project 30 years into our financial future. It's why I like tax-free accounts so much. They remove the massive variable that is taxes. It's why I hate a passive stock and bond only investment approach. It leaves retirees exposed to way more risk than they realize. I'd much rather utilize downside protection strategies. I talk about some of those market-based, not insurance-based, downside protection strategies in this video. Anyway, hopefully you get the idea. We could use that what if I die early logic to do whatever we want today without regard for our financial future. That is, after all, the way that we'll be able to enjoy as much of our hard-earned money as humanly possible, but not planning for or even considering the future is also a recipe for financial disaster. If you have a family history of early death or are sick and don't have long to live, fine, it can make sense. But if you have no reason to expect that you will die before your 80s, then the chance that you might is not a great reason. Having a larger Social Security payment later, starting at age 70, for example, facilitates you needing less later from all your investment accounts to sustain your quality of life, no matter how long you might end up living. From a planning perspective, not knowing how long that might be, the variable that is your longevity, that higher payment is even more valuable than just the difference in the sums. All right, number 2. Shouldn't I just take it while I can enjoy it? YOLO, right? It may feel this way now, but there are always more expenses. Your high activity expenses, traveling for example, get replaced by even more expenses, medical stuff, for example. I've never had someone who delayed until they were 70 tell me that they wish they claimed earlier because now they just don't know what to do with all this extra money. But I have seen it the other way. People who claimed early and regretted it. Anyway, number 3. Isn't Social Security going bankrupt? Shouldn't I get it while the getting's good? This concern resonates with me. I get it. I'm a doomsayer at heart. I have a lot of concerns about the way the United States handles its finances. I detail them in this video. Yet another reason I don't like the traditional passive stock and bond portfolio. Something will break. Politicians and the powers that be have gotten real good at kicking that can down the road though. So I don't claim to know if that will be, that crash, that chaos would be in your lifetime or mine or my kids for that matter. I just know the current trajectory is unsustainable and I sincerely, sadly, don't see a way out of it. That's the reason behind my passion for helping people be as prepared as possible, come what may. But in this situation, here's the political reality. The only way Social Security would be allowed to go bankrupt and require payments to drop to just what is directly supported by taxes, that's that 74 to 80% number, for that to happen, we would have to have much bigger problems. Like Medicare, Social Security is a third rail. Even though it is quite obviously broken, no politician is going to let that many voters get shafted on their watch. Letting it go bankrupt and retirees' payments drop to 80% of what they were promised would be political suicide. They'll come up with some, probably terrible long-term, last-minute fix that will kick that can further down the road, causing problems for future generations, sure, but they'll deal with that later. Number 4, what if I need the money today? What if I physically cannot continue working and I can't live without that money? If that's the case, and you have no other sources of funds, fine, you might be right. Again, everyone's a little bit different. But if you do have other potential sources of funds, here is something to consider. What would it look like from a holistic, long-term financial planning perspective if you pulled from your traditional IRAs and 401k today instead of claiming Social Security? If this is your concern right now, not having enough money to get by, then you're likely in a relatively low tax bracket. Getting some of that money out of those now 100% taxable accounts can be long-term valuable from a tax planning perspective. Once you decide to turn Social Security on, then you have to start worrying about the Social Security tax torpedo, for example. I detailed that and a couple other common tax torpedoes in this video. Someone may counter that IRAs can be left to heirs while Social Security's promises cannot. That's fair. So growth in your IRAs is especially valuable. But spending them down like this in your earlier retirement years will lower the required minimum distributions, RMDs, the government is going to force you to pay once you hit that magic age in about a decade. Lower RMDs can mean less taxes unnecessarily paid to Uncle Sam over your lifetime, which can actually leave you with even more money in your retirement accounts in the end. That would all really depend on how long you end up ultimately living. But anyway, this spending down of your traditional IRA type accounts early can counterintuitively actually increase that legacy figure that we're talking about here. This is where financial planning software can be helpful. Most often we discover that by delaying Social Security and what that does to their later in life financial math, clients can still retire at 62 if they want to, and comfortably take out even more from their IRAs than their Social Security payment would have been. That's, of course, not the case for everyone. If you have $0 in an IRA or 401k, then yeah, it's not going to comfortably provide you with anything. So maybe you have to take the Social Security check now and make do. But hopefully I've given you some things to think about as you weigh this important lifelong decision of whether or not to claim your Social Security early. It's not cut and dry. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. There is a lot to consider, but you can absolutely figure this stuff out and make an informed decision that you won't regret. Now, I promised a scenario where claiming early often does make sense. If you're married and you're the lower earner of the two of you, it could make sense to claim at 62 or at least early, especially the younger you are than your spouse. The reason for this is because once either spouse dies, the surviving spouse gets to claim the higher earner's benefit regardless. So if you're quite a bit younger than your higher earning spouse, you may not even make it to 70 before they pass away and you get to claim their benefit, forfeiting your own smaller benefit, or you may not get very many years of that. You might as well start collecting from your benefit as soon as you can. Even if you're close to the same age though, it's still mathematically worth considering. Remember, the SSA is basing your benefit on the average life expectancy of a 62-year-old individual, not on the actuarial expectancy that both of you will still be alive in 20 years. That is statistically less likely than they have factored for here. So claiming the lower earner's benefit early, if they're the same age or younger, can make mathematical sense. But of course, math is not the only consideration here. With all of this, everyone's different. If you're close to the same age and both crazy healthy with high longevity in your families, then yeah, it can make sense for you to both delay. Anyway, I sincerely hope this has helped you understand the nuance behind this important decision. Let me know in the comments what you think and where you stand. I look forward to meeting you and helping however I can. I wish you all the best. Take care.